muted. So let me just make sure the sound is working. Erev Tov Yerushalayim, Guten Tag, Netherlands, Yetzeit the Spiel. So here we go. We got Crazy 8, my friend from Israel, Bug House aficionado, one of the best Crazy House players, made it, lost to Bug House Knight, has some chances to making it to the finals against the Netherlands, against kjjl, who pulled off an upset against another player from the Netherlands last round, and actually got a forfeit win against the Russian Grandmaster Orlando Gloom. So Crazy 8 should be a favorite here. Looks like they're both D4 players, so I play E4 and more exciting. So the nature of Crazy House is kind of an attacking game. So both these players play a more positional style. So I'm not familiar with these opening lines. So I'm not sure if so Crazy 8 gives up the pawn on D5, open king chances. See what's going on. So I'm not familiar with these type positions. Try to give a little commentary to the best of my ability. Let me just check the chat. Mohammed, good to meet you. Duvid's a chess player, chess coach. Crazy 8 is actually a superior over-the-board chess player to me. About 2,300 strength. Crazy House, I say we're about the same. He's a little higher rated than me, but we'll call it about even. I have a little more experience in Crazy House. So the nature of Crazy House, are very dynamic positions. Obviously, this pawn on B7 is hanging, so he just puts a pawn on G2 to cover it up, but that leaves this pawn hanging. So multiple possibilities here. So it's a pretty intense position. Like if he takes this knight on G6, so go straight in. So the nature of Crazy House is, checkmate, and you get material. And a lot of times you could checkmate the king with just 2 or 3 pieces, or a pawn in there threatening the queen. So you get very dynamic positions. So usually you want to go straight for checkmate. But, trying to take the pawn on B7, hunt material wouldn't be valuable. And even, sometimes you get crazy positions, like if he played bishop takes knight here, and, then the knight can't, then he would probably have to take this bishop here. It'd be a crazy sacrifice. So he takes that knight. He probably has to take back, takes again. So interesting dynamic here. White has 3 knights. So he does go for the pawn on B7, maybe more just that he needed a pawn. There wasn't really anyone good place to, not necessarily he's trying to take the rook, but he probably just needed material. So it's interesting dynamic here. Black has bishops to place, white has knights, but the dark squares. So, he could try something just like bishop at C6 to, if he trades and move the knight up and get rid of the bishop defending here on G2. A pawn on G6 may or may not be helpful. So he goes straight in for the attack pawn at G3. If he takes the rook, he might even be able to take with the queen. Probably would take queen X pawn would be superior. That would be mate. So queen X pawn here is a mate threat because of if rook takes, pawn takes with check, and the bishop takes. Maybe it's not quite mate, but he probably has to do something to defend. And okay, a bishop check first. Yeah, so this looks good. Well, maybe not. Like queen takes pawn. So the rook takes queen. He might have to do queen takes rook. So actually, this is looking kind of good for white. Although it's questioning whether white will have a mate. Should he, like if he. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say here. Actually, it looks pretty good for white. So I have to admit, it's looking bad. Proctor Z Hector. Oh, Zaraza, thanks for tuning in. So got Zaraza, my new friend from Russia, who's also a streamer. So yeah, unfortunately for Crazy 8, this is looking good for white. I'm not sure, like if he just plays queen takes pawn, he doesn't have any threats because so he has to go in for the rook, and then he probably has to do something like pawn takes, and then it's unsure. He probably doesn't have a mate. Maybe he could probably even do queen takes f7. Yeah. So probably if I were playing here, I assume this is going to be the mate taking here, and then a knight there looks pretty solid, but maybe not. Maybe he could run queen. Yeah, so he goes for that queen on c7. So yeah, he has to run this way, but yeah, he has mate because knight at c6. So queen check there, and then knight at c6 will be mate. So Crazy 8 goes down the first game as black, and I'm not sure if this was his prep. So he doesn't play the obvious mate. Well, that's mate also. So then just take the knight. Either way was going to be mate. So Crazy 8 goes down the first game. kjjl, lower rated. We could look at that game later, but it looked like whatever Crazy 8 tried to do there just didn't work, and the material deficit just wasn't there in the attacks. It was that interesting dynamic of the diagonals versus the knights, and Crazy 8 just didn't have enough to go in for the attack. So I think we got 12 people watching. So because I'm doing the screen share, I can't actually see the chat. I have to go check the chat between games. So kjjl likes these d4 fianchettoing the king side. Sometimes he goes for g3, g6. It looks like here he's trying for g5. So this is very similar to the last game, except this time Crazy 8 is white, so has the extra tempo. So last game kind of got ahead of me. Said these aren't the type lines I play. Sometimes it could be similar to a French type position. I basically exclusively play e4, and I don't play d5. So if a person plays d4, I usually do like a knight f6, d6. So these lines are completely unfamiliar to me. So it's tough for me to give much insight in the opening. So he is playing the h6 g5, which is weakening, but last game he wasn't able to capitalize on it. So here also, bring the knight into the center. These are dynamic positions. So even though it's d4, it's a tad bit slower than e4 openings. You see how quickly it's getting into a dynamic position. Obviously, black has holes to work with, possibly f3 and h3, and white has holes to work with, could already sack on f7, or maybe just push h5 first, and maybe just develop, if there's not a kill shot here, castling may not be worthwhile at this point. King might be safer in the center for either side. So, for me, I might just slow play it, develop the last few of the pieces, and then, maybe, if you were prepped up, it could be like h5 is important to play. Like I'm not sure if black wants to play h5 to prevent white from doing it, but that base for a future piece on g6, could be useful. Okay, so he goes for the trade. Almost certainly take with the pawn, although not guaranteed. I don't know where the knight. The knight's going to go to h5, so it could be that before knight c3 he should have played h5 first to prevent the knight from reaching there. I'm not a d4 player to know that, but I've seen in other matches some of Jacob, good to see you. Thanks for joining the chat. So you have to look, if Crazy 8 comes on after, we'll talk about this. But yeah, it could be that he was supposed to play h5 first to prevent the knight from reaching there. So now he's got both of his blacks bishops on black squares, over protecting the dark squares. At the same time, white, it's not bug house, so black can't get diagonals necessarily placed, like a pawn at h3 could be very powerful. So this is a very positional grind type position here. Could have even considered knight at c5 in these type positions and maybe threatened the pawn at the same time. So these are small differences that could have made a difference. Like I said, if knight there may have actually been better. Just to think about, also would have been threatening b7. Maybe in that case he would have played queen c8 and would have been the same difference. So you just bring the knight to bring the pieces out. So a lot of times, crazy house, you just go straight in for the attack and you sack a bunch of pieces. But in this case, it's more a slow play, dynamic position, and you're trying to get the material in. So a lot of pressure here. You're probably going to see quite a bit of trades coming. So it's going to be interesting. Crazy 8, a little bit down on time. It's not the fastest player. So, he does have he's only played a handful of bullet games. So, he takes with a pawn. So very interesting. I'm not sure why. Just take with the bishop. I'm not sure what benefit there was to taking with the pawn like that. But, say because somewhat he controls the flow of material. He could even try something like king f2. These are very complicated tight positions on a positional level because you're not really directly going in to attack the king. So usually ZH, you want to just go straight up and attack the king. So he sacrifices the pawn and then moves the king. I guess he has to play the pawn right back to defend c7. So and then now he's taking the bishop. So material's coming down. If he takes with the pawn, then this pawn here hangs and the knight's hanging. Oh, so now he just takes c7 and the queen hangs. So this should be GG. So if you see going back a move, had he taken, pawn takes pawn here, then the queen would have been able to take that pawn. And, so he ended up losing his queen. And then, just now he has a queen to play. And he just plays at d6. He might even be able to, like if he tried something like knight at d7, he could probably pretty safely just move his king over and hide on h2. This h2 would be a reasonably safe hiding space, or he might even be able to sack the queen right away. So what do you do? He played a bishop at f7 in order to it's probably just not enough material for black to get anything. So if he tries like a knight at e7, then it's say this hiding square here, so he has to make a defensive move. Although, if he could safen up his king, he'd be in a little danger. So that's a mate threat. So that, okay, that was a very nice mate. So good job, Crazy 8. So let's see what happens. Crazy 8's definitely a strong favorite. You can see the rating has almost 200 rating points. They both play similar type openings. So people who like d4, you get to see some interesting, d4 dynamics. So e4 lines, you usually get into the attack right away. You might even find sacrifices within the first 5 moves of the game. d4, a lot of times you get, development. So I'm not sure if he's going to go for f6 here, if his idea is to provoke a weakness to get f6, like Ben Feingold, never play f6, or if he does the knight there, then he might just take the knight. So I'm not sure. I might have went with f6, but, so this could have been kjjl's preparation. Maybe he's playing new things, or maybe he's played this before, but it could be, this is world champion level, like top 50. Crazy house, not quite like top 25, but you could expect that both players did some preparation. So it's possible that these are new lines, and instead I'm not familiar with these opening lines to know the difference. But you see, you get a very similar position, a very interesting bishop at c3. It's I guess just straightforward to prevent the knight from coming in, or overprotect e5. I guess the threat was just taking on e5, although he might have been able to sack. So he just brings the bishop back, attack the weak point on d3. And, at this point, it's hard to come up with a direct plan. Maybe castles, knight here, the pawn on g7's hanging. So he takes the pawn, basic trick pawn back fork, and you'll get the material right back. White's a lot of open space around the king side. So I'm not sure. Can he just take? I mean, I think he could just do pawn takes pawn, and if he takes the knight, he could play the pawn back here, attacking the queen. So and kills playing kjjl playing relatively quick. So I'm not sure. I think he could get away with taking the pawn. It's probably a good time, Crazy 8, if he wants to think here and use a little bit of his time to see if he has something good. Also, obviously, the knight could come in. So he just takes the bishop right away, relieve some tension. The knight's hanging anyway, so just take it. Probably, he has knight check here also, the knight at d6, but yeah, he takes. So I think this is going to be 0-1, because if he moves the rook over, then he could just do knight check. And, he doesn't want to let him take the rook with check, or he might have to play like a move like bishop at f3. Just it looks GG here. So whatever, this sacrifice, bringing the queen in, and then queen x b7 seemed to, I'm guessing that was just not good. You have to check the computer analysis later. But yeah, I would say that's probably just losing. This probably going to be Crazy 8's game. And you say now kjjl is spending time. He probably would have been better off spending that time a move or two ago. So, bishop check there. Obviously defend against a possible drop at d3. However, the threat is now at f3. So, now he could just take this with queen. It's looking pretty bad. Like he's got a knight for dropping squares, so he could just play knight here, knight at e4, and that's going to provide further support for f6. So I'm assuming he's going to play knight here, but maybe not. He might even just be able to play queen takes rook. He doesn't even have a direct threat, so he probably just play queen takes rook also. And well, he does have a threat, bishop takes bishop, and then he if he takes back with the, he has to take back with the queen. Obviously, if like king takes bishop drop, there would be checkmate. So has to be a little concerned. Although it's very possible queen takes rook is just winning. You could do queen takes, and then if he takes the rook check, just drop the rook back, and then he has no more checks. And I don't know, knight. That's a pretty weird move. So I'm not, if he has some sort of mate coming in there, I don't see it. But it's a pretty weird move. So I guess this way he's a further mate threat. I guess it's just giving up another knight. But yeah, he probably overthought there. I can't imagine that knight there. We'll check the computer line maybe. But he probably overthought there. Presumably he has to do bishop takes bishop for any counterplay. Rook. He's got two rooks to place, so there's a rook there, queen there is going to be easy mate. So he has to play bishop takes bishop, and then he has to take with the queen, and then queen takes rook, and that's the only way the game goes on at all. And then maybe another bishop there, but you're going to have it hard to imagine that. I really can't imagine like seeing Ghost or something that knight there. Okay, so he, I can't imagine why he wouldn't have played bishop takes bishop and taken the rook. He could even just do pawn here. It's made in two. Pawn here, pawn there, and then rook on the back rank. It's made in two. Assume he'll see that. He doesn't see it yet, but he's got 30 seconds to see it. Oh no, the bishop is defending. Sorry, the bishop's defending. So yeah, just drop the rook and knight there. So a little bit of a time deficit. So I mean, up a boatload of material on the board. So he just took a bishop. He's got to be a little bit cautious. I mean, time is a factor also. So I mean, he could always just play bishop takes bishop and then bishop drop because so he even takes the pawn, the rook's on it. Okay, so he does the bishop, defend the queen, bishop check. So he doesn't want to block off his squares. So now he takes the knight check there. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on. So I got hope he didn't blow this. I guess bishop check here. It's missing a little material. He might have blown this one, unfortunately. Knight check here. Oh, he had knight check there and pawn mate. Oh no, he didn't. So king just completely ran around. So this is unfortunate. It's not looking good. I guess he takes the pawn. He could get the queen back in here and get some more material. So let's see if very low time deficit. Okay, he has those two pawns. Is it enough? Rook check there. Bishop back. And then rook here, mate. Rook here will be mate. So very clever. Oh, no, it's not. It was a draw. It'd be an interesting draw. He's got to play for a draw. He doesn't. Crazy. Going to be a draw at the end of this. Oh, no, it's not even a draw. No, that doesn't even work. Oh, he misplayed that. Oh, no, it's GG. Too bad. Now knight and mate. Yeah, so got down to the wire, and unfortunately, he couldn't find the mate there. So Crazy 8, not a super fast player. So thanks, Zaraza, for tuning in and complimenting my voice. Duvid, is a chanter, used to singing, and key to streaming. Yeah, I see Zaraza streaming quite often, and one of the keys to good streaming is not having downtime. You basically have to talk the whole time. So Duvid is used to chanting. I could talk an hour straight. So let's hope that Crazy 8 has something. That last game was unfortunate. I'm sure he had a few different possibilities to come up with something for a mating attack there, but time pressure, he wasn't able to find it, and good job for kjjl even to not going for the perpetual, seeing that he had in the few seconds left, seeing that he could even to win that. So good job, kjjl. And so he probably has to bring the bishop all the way back to e2. If he brings the bishop here, the pawn there will fork to two pieces. If he brings the bishop here, maybe he could get away with doing that. So yeah, I guess bishop takes d4 is dangerous. Doesn't want to leave this hole here. So bishop there provoked c6 and prevented the knight from possibly moving there. So tough openings. It's like tough to maybe he just plays c3 to defend the pawn at this point, or maybe bishop e3. Now obviously the threat on d4 is stronger, so just he can't play like h3 and provoke taking the knight. Maybe conceivably he can, but I doubt it. Okay, so he offers the pawn another move. So bishop takes b8, is maybe the threat that if he tough to see. Maybe he just trades the knight and pawn here is the immediate threat. So even if he played like bishop here, pawn here is an immediate threat that has to be tended to, and it's actually difficult to defend. That if he brings the knight out here, it's blocking the queen, and then he could play probably pawn at d6 or something like that. So bishop at f4 might be a relatively strong move that will be able to cause some weakness. So kjjl, using a good amount of time here, have to figure something out. Hopefully Crazy 8 is going to figure out how to get some sort of advantage in the opening or next time for black. He's played a few games. Maybe he'll be able to pull off a black win. So here we've had white winning each of the first 3 games. I'm not sure if pawn at d6, it's a pretty obvious type move. Maybe he's just gonna play pawn there, but then looks pretty solid in there. Maybe you can play knight there and get a knight to pop in immediately. So that would be my first choice of move, just to play pawn here. If he takes the knight, you just take back, bishop takes, and so he castles, so allowing him a developing move. So he gives him a knight that's just going to go right there on c7. So you take, and then he can't even take the knight back. So he takes. I assume he's going to take the rook, unless he thinks something better. But now he could even pick up the queen. Also, it'd be a huge lead in material. Could consider even something like pawn at c7, but rook at b8 picks up the queen right away, and then it'll be up quite a bit of material. However, then kjjl might have some chances for some sort of counterattack. So he goes for the pawn here. It is not looking good for that queen. That now obviously gets the rook at the file, and we take back, and then he'll have a full pawn as a queen. That didn't help him last game. It's tough to see a good counterattack. So he probably just play rook at d8 and win the queen for nothing. Rook at b8, and he could try something. He only has a rook and a knight and a pawn, so like pawn at h3 might be the obvious type move that he would do here, but he's down so much material that he could probably just pick up the pawn. Unclear how he wants to handle this. If he plays queen takes knight, and then he could just take the pawn. If he plays queen takes knight, then he has to take back with the knight, and then he could just take the pawn. Seems like a strong idea. Or he could try for something more, but he's also in time pressure again. So he takes the pawn first, and so now the bishop has to go back. So I'm not quite sure about this. I prefer the other line, giving back the queen. And Crazy 8 low on time again, so let's hope he is able to find some good moves in the time pressure. He could possibly just take the knight and then knight there. So he takes the bishop with check, and then that will be mate. So it's mate in 1. Queen is coming down on the board. Next move, mate, no matter what. So good job, Crazy 8. Got himself into a little bit of time pressure. Bishop f4 was a strong idea, paid off. So you see these d4 lines. It's a tad bit slower than other type oki. So we got Oki here saying why Apper, even though he's one of the best players in the world, hardly ever gets any views on it, because there's really, you want to hear commentary, and if you hear commentary, you want to hear nonstop commentary. So a lot of the Jan Lee's actually a very good streamer like that. He's good at talking basically nonstop, and but besides that, Apper Wiesen is a very strong player, but not a great streamer. So it's just like recording his games, and you could watch those later. But like for the streaming, it's not really streaming. Oki's a pretty good streamer too. Usually, tries to talk nonstop. So, streaming and chess playing are not the same skills. So obviously, top chess players are not necessarily top streamers. It's a separate skill that has to be worked on. So I think last time kjjl went for bishop e5, and this time he just takes. So we have opposite. Last time it was kjjl that had the pawn on d3, and the open c file. So this is a very common idea. Just threaten the pawn on c2, defends it. He probably just develop his knight, or so your bishop here defends the pawn, and so he has the open c file to work with. Not sure if he wants to play knight to e7 or f6. So I guess he just plays knight to f6. So white may just castle. So he brings his queen up. Not sure if that is threatening. I guess you're just figuring if he takes the pawn, he's going to lose the pawn, doesn't want a tempo on his queen, or if there's some idea to eventually try to work on these dark squares. The difference of these queen side openings as opposed to king side openings is, when you play e4, e5, it opens up your queen and your bishop. d4, d5 only opens up one bishop, and the nature of the game is the material trades slower. But like the previous games, a lot of times you see a buildup of tension to where a lot of trades happen at once. So like the previous games where you could have a whole bunch of waiting moves and positionings, and then a mass trades, and then come down to a question of tempo and who gets the material on whose move, how beneficial is the material to the various person. So kjjl has been relatively good at getting an advantage of time in the beginning. So maybe even knight. So if he doesn't sacrifice, so he goes for the sack. Otherwise, he might have been able to play knight a5 and moving in. So 2-2. And so he takes with the pawn. He takes the knight, and he takes with the pawn. I guess open up the e file, and so I guess he has to take the bishop here. So yeah, just and then just take the pawn. So now he's probably going to take c2, and then he take, and then knight takes pawn here. Looks good. So bishop takes pawn. If he takes with the rook, not sure about that. I think maybe he missed that bishop takes pawn or something else. I don't like that knight back, but I guess he could play the pawn back, and now he doesn't have like a rinse and repeat. He doesn't have another pawn to place at d2, but obviously moving the knight backwards, he could have even just sacrificed the knight for that matter on d4. But so the material now, kjj is up a pawn, so he's got to take, and he can't do king takes, and then bishop check. Probably bad. So king over. He could try just a pawn at e4. He could try bishop takes. So trade the bishop, probably bishop at e4, but not sure if bishop at e2, obviously better. Pick up the rook, and then he could have some serious checkmate threats. So bishop takes rook, and you may not want to play the rook right away at e2, but a lot of times if you get that pawn at g2, then rook threats there will be mating threats with enough pawns. kjjl might be able to parry. So interesting looking, the possible knight fork. So you just take the rook. It's tough to see. I mean, he could, it's tough to see. He just has two bishops and a pawn. If he takes the knight, so he takes the pawn. That knight looking, so kind of sad. But pawn here looks strong. Pawn here, because then you're threatening knight there and checkmate. So if he plays pawn here, knight at f3 is a checkmate threat. So this is also a checkmate threat. Rook there, it would be a mating threat. So he's either got to sack the rook, which is going to be probably a disaster because he's just going to take back, he could take back and make a knight, or maybe even just make it a queen. So now he could win the queen. So he just take the bishop and then rinse and repeat with another bishop. So I guess he goes knight here. That's a queen threat there. Although maybe knight takes pawn even here could be coming, but not so sure if that knight there was so great. So he takes the rook. So now he has some minor return chances. So rook there. He's probably safe. He has two knights, so has to be a little bit careful about possibilities. He could try taking the pawn here. Bishop takes pawn. He takes the rook. So now he has a rook and two knights. So now he had to give up the queen. So it would be unfortunate if c8 loses this game. He definitely had quite a few winning chances, and okay, so at least he'll be able to get the queen. So yeah, knight checkmate. So yeah, it fell for the knight check. So both a little time pressure. So c8 gets a win there with black. So the first black win, c8 taking a 3-2 lead now. And if he could continue on with white, that could be decisive. So yeah, Oki in the chat, like, because I'm streaming, I have it on full screen, watching the screen. I can't actually see the chat, but just for the dynamic, I'm not saying like it's somewhat objective about what good streaming is. So you say someone has a style that a lot of chess players are introverted, or not good talkers, or it could be a language matter. If someone's streaming in English is like their third or fourth language, and if they're going to stream in Dutch, which worldwide is not such a popular language, if you streamed in Dutch, it would be unlikely anybody other than Dutch people would watch. So there could be a whole variety of reasons, but what makes for good streams is relatively objective. That obviously downtime makes it less interesting. So just making that point that it's basically objective what makes for good streaming, and that includes basically consistent talking without any downtime. I'm not sure. Like, I guess if he plays knight takes pawn, he's going to do like queen check. And he just goes back, but it looked like knight takes pawn may have even been good there, but he decides not to go for it. Not sure why. I mean, it's a queen check there and pawn there. So can he capitalize on this position? Is white better here? I'm not sure. Does he just develop the knight? Where's the knight even going? And so he goes to d2. I'm not sure where it's going to go from there. If he's going to go for b3 and c5, since there's these are the material drain type positions where it's very difficult for either side. Unlike Bug House, where you ask your partner for material, you have to produce the material here for yourself, and so in these type positions, it's very difficult to supply yourself with material. So just the simple threat of knight b3, knight c5 might force him to place the bishop. He has the bishop in reserves to place. So in this position, black has, but he goes to open up the h file, and then just take the knight. I mean, if he takes the knight here first, he'll probably take back, and so it's pretty straightforward. The most basic Bug House attack, knight takes on f7, is probably the single most common strategy. Bishop takes on f7 or knight takes on f7. Obviously, for Bug House players, it's more often knight takes. So I'm going to assume he could take the rook, but I'm going to assume he's just going to take back here first. But maybe not. Maybe because the bishop is defending a second pawn drop, maybe he could get away with taking the rook. But no, didn't think so. He doesn't take the rook. Just brings the knight in, and then almost guaranteed, knight here is going to be the next move, although maybe he's got some other idea. Pawn here, because it opens the rook file. Can't do that quite yet. He could try pawn here also, but then the knight probably just the knight's really going to go to h5. Or you could try like in the other game that I said he should have possibly paid pawn to h5, so it could actually be pawn to h5 is a good move also. So let's see, getting a little low on time. You can even try picking up another pawn on c7, but and notice kjj doesn't actually have any pawns, so he doesn't want to lose his white here. So don't want to get too low on time. So Crazy 8 letting the time tick down and trying to come up with the right plan, and he goes for at b7 and then bishop takes c7, and I'm not sure the advantage of that, of I guess clearing some sort of way for the back file or something, but hard to see what that provided him. So Crazy 8 now is down quite a bit of material. He's down six pieces, because he sacked 2 pieces, and then reincarnation, those pieces come back on the other side. So probably h5, so the threat was obvious. That's why I recommended that. That was what I thought he should have done first. So he's got quite a few pieces on this, so even if he tries like bishop here for an added defense, or knight there, so he just creates a square for his king, because he has such a huge material advantage that if he places a pawn there, the king is relatively safe there. So it's not looking good. Crazy 8 is down to just a few seconds. Queen takes bishop would have been a threat, because queen takes back and the bishop would have came with check. So I guess he has to take it. If he moves in with the knight doesn't quite help him, so he can't sack the queen on knight check here, because he doesn't have any mates or anything like that immediately coming. So kjjl using some time here. So which way does he run? Runs back to e8. So could drop the bishop. So if he drops like a bishop on b5, the king can't run further because the knight fork, and then even picking up the queen with check. But he could do pawn at c3, so does. But now the queen takes bishop. We can't do it and pick up the queen because that would be a mating attack. You could try like rook d1 or something like that. He just picks up the material. So he's up a huge amount of material here. And yeah, it looks like GG, but hard to see that he would be able to get anything. I don't even know he pre-moved that. So the idea here, pawn, he doesn't have to take the pawn, but he has so little material. He doesn't even have anything. You just run back. So now, yep, too bad. So 2 white losses. We had 6. The first 4 games were all white wins, and now had 2 black wins. I think Crazy 8 has been getting in time trouble and missing attacks. So kjjl has escaped some attacks. That attack just was probably on sound and sacrificed too much material. And so props to kjjl really outperforming his rating. This match knocked off 2400 the game before, and this match also appears to be doing quite well. So Crazy 8, check the chat. So it looked like it took a second. So maybe took a break or something for a second. Okay. So we get all d4, d5 every game this match, and kjjl has been going for the h3, g4 lines. And I think Crazy 8 missed like some of those games, like he missed the right idea. I think he had to push the h4 pawn. I'm not expert in these lines, but I think he would have been better off in a few of these games pushing the h pawn one more to h4 to either prevent the knight or post for the square. And he did that eventually in the other game, but it was too little too late. And his attacking idea just sacrificed too much material. So we have a slightly different setup here. So they have not been playing the exact same lines. They've been, I think all of these games, even though they've all been d4, d5, have been slight variations. So castle, white with the 3 knights, black the 3 bishops. Pretty equal, slow position, although kjj a little more aggressive with the h3 g4 line than just a g6 line. So we haven't been seeing double fianchettos. So kjjl has been fianchettoing, and Crazy 8 a lot of times, like in the previous match, you had seen double fianchettos. So so you're going to take with the pawn or the bishop. So we had another line, like the pawn on b7 was hanging. I'm not sure if this is prep or if he, so if he did like knight at h4, he would probably just take this b7 pawn because the bishop is defending at a distance. And so I'm not sure how great that pawn sacrifice was. So another opportunity, like you could take the pawn. So that is material. He could play bishop at d6. And then if he, that doesn't actually change. I mean, then he takes the rook with check. So I'm not sure if Crazy 8 has messed this up already. This definitely looks better for white, but it's a dynamic position. He could take on h3 right away. How valuable is taking on h3? If he takes with this knight here, he even has a mate threat. So it's if he takes the rook here and then here, knight takes h3 is almost like a mate threat. So he takes the queen. So we got a queen trade. He's going to lose the rook, although maybe he should have taken the knight first here. Maybe I'm not sure. I think he actually missed something here. The bishop, if he took with the knight, then he's got minor mate threats there. But so he has to ratchet up the queen, and presumably, he's going to take one of the rooks. I mean, I don't see a direct quick attack. He could. KJJ could. So he decides to keep his fake queen. So I'm going to assume that he's going to probably take on h3, but so he takes on f6. Hard to tell. Somebody's going to take on g2. It's tough to see. Maybe he's going to play bishop on bishop at d6 and get the queen back. But I'm guessing Crazy 8 did not play the best continuation. That seemed taken on h3 was better. Quite a few moves in a row there. So it's not looking good. Crazy 8 could be going down 4-3. Clutch match coming up. It does. He did have black first, but there's still some play. Like obviously, knight here is a mate threat. Knight, simple knight here, and then queen at h2 is a mate threat. So KJJ looking, has to come up with something, and so he just drops a knight and. And then puts his bishop there. So he can't take the knight because then he'd be getting mated, and then just knight back would be some sort of threat. So he just goes for pawn. So Crazy 8 doesn't even have a pawn to play, like a pawn drop at e2 if he had two pawns. And doesn't even have like a good way to get a pawn for the knight. This is a fake queen, so attacking, tempoing on the queen. He already has a queen off the board. So although he could try something, even just like knight at d2, if that may not even be leading to mate, but just like a knight at d2 because he only has a knight and queen to defend. So he goes for knight at e3, so his king is somewhat safe here. So in this game, KJJ actually has less time than Crazy 8, so it's tough to find a plan. I was thinking knight at d2 to attack f3 and possibly take the rook. So now he has a double mate threat, and he just has to play a pawn there to defend, but maybe knight check here. Time is ticking down. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, knight check and knight check. So this looks mating, although it's unclear. I mean, obviously, knight takes here. I'm not sure what he's waiting for, but yeah, I guess that's mate easier. So, good one, Crazy 8, pulling off a clutch win there. It was hard to. I seriously doubt that he played the best continuation there. But the nature of Crazy House, like he had those pieces around the king, and so you're just probing the weakness. I mentioned first time I popped on House Discord, the finisher in GSVC, I was talking more like a computer programming algorithm, but also something to be done in the head is just looking at how many times squares are defended or attacked. And placing pieces more for the, because you could have just a few holes around the king and just place a little material there and probe a weakness. And with the queen off the board ready to place, he eventually was able to get that weakness and find mate. So good job there, Crazy 8. And so I'm not sure if this is the same line we had last time. So this time, I'm not sure if he fianchettoed. So it looks like Crazy 8's playing different this time, fianchettoing his bishop on g2. So KJJ does not play g5 because that would have led to immediate h4. And so now we have a double fianchetto line. And so I don't know the prep in these openings that well. So it looks like a slow play, just both sides develop material. There's unlikely any good sacrifices or immediate way to lead towards a powerful attack. So Crazy 8 playing a little bit slow here, because playing e3 doesn't help, just weakens f3, and you could play queen c1 or queen d2, possibly. So queen d2, he has to bring the king up, and it's unclear if taking and then trying to put the pawn there accomplishes anything, or how to gain material. Whether he could do, he might be able to do like knight takes pawn. It's probably not quite good enough because the bishop's there. But some of these positions, I think I've seen some from Clearcast videos where you have the knight takes pawn and then a pawn back on e4, but probably didn't work in that position. So now he takes the pawn there, so you just rinse and repeat, take the bishop and then pop something right back on h6. It's unlikely he's going to want to sacrifice the queen. He could also bring the bishop back. So sure, he's going to place the pawn or bishop on h6, or it could even conceivably place it on g7. So he places the bishop. So he might be able to play queen takes bishop and then pawn at g5. I'm not sure if that's how good that is. He also has the potential to take the knight on c6 to garner material. But like at this point, he probably has to be all in. Like if queen goes back here, he could just place a pawn here and win the queen. So he has to be all in. Oh, he doesn't even have a pawn. Pawn on g5 would have been better because it'd take the knight. Bishop check. So he goes back. I guess he could take the knight and place it there. So Crazy 8 is down a queen for a piece here. So see, he's going to have a hard time getting material to further the attack. So the queen doesn't have anything immediately useful. I guess just threatening to pick up this pawn on c7. So he plays defensive. So just lets him take the pawn on c7. However, now maybe he could just play. So he did this before, the pawn there. This time, so now he could get a whole rook back. It's unclear exactly how he's going to advance his attack. Like he might be able to threaten to win the queen after. So if he like taking the pawn on c2 is slow. So for kjjl, he doesn't have much material either to place. The queen doesn't have anywhere good to go, and so he places the pawn. So he's playing kind of defensive here. So I like Crazy 8's chances. You got to pay a little bit of attention to time. he might even just be able to bring the knight back because the material. So he goes after the queen, which like he could bring the queen back to d8 or e8. Otherwise, maybe he's going to take the knight. So now he just brings the knight back, and I guess if he takes the bishop, he doesn't really have that much, discovered. He's taking the east on e7 might be enough to scare him out of, but yeah, he needs the material. So I guess takes on e7. Not sure if he wants to just take the pawn on b2, if he wants to leave so much holes around his king or sacrifice. Yeah, taking on b2 seemed the most logical. And Crazy 8 only has a pawn. He maybe should just sack the knight on d5 to get some sort of material, though it's unclear what he's going to do with that. So, probably just take on c2, save the queen. And, yeah, I would probably just sack the knight on d5 like that. Now he's going to lose. Now he probably just take the knight, or even there's always potential. There is a little bit of holes. If you notice, kjjl has all this material off the board, and how is he going to place it in time to do something to help his own position, which could sometimes prove difficult, but it's a bad time deficit. So it's interesting. The first 4 games were all white wins, and the last 3 games were black wins. This is definitely looking good for kjjl. So we see 4 white wins and maybe 4 black wins, but his time's ticking down. He can't come up with a plan, and so he just places a piece around his king, and he forfeits on time. Yeah, it didn't look good there. So just too much material there that looked like after the queen sack and even picking up the material, but that rook at c7 just wasn't enough. So Crazy 8 here, clutch game, going to overtime 4-4, and they got 9 people watching. I'm gonna have to look at the chat later, because it said I can't look at the chat and the game at the same time. So we've had 4 white wins and then 4 black wins. Not sure if we're going to get a repeat of lines. It looks like all 8 games, I have to check afterwards, have been a slight variation from each other. None of these games have been the exact same opening. Sometimes you see in the higher match play where they move straight into the same opening line game after game. So moves the bishop back. Just leave the e4 square for his knight, and he defends the pawn on c3. So you'll probably just develop in slow play. Knight c6, d7. So just develop material, and maybe knight at f6, similar to the previous line. Could have maybe also tried for h5. I think when you play h5 like that, you have to add with h4 also. So could have played knight b6 for c5, but it looks like the knight is going to be headed to f6. So it just defends the b7 pawn with the rook. And KJJ goes for the double bishop. He could have just played bishop e3, but he chooses bishop at e3. So it's, I think, so how is he going to defend the pawn on c2 if that's such a bad threat? And so does he just take on c2? Or is the rinse and repeat of the knight on d7 that powerful? So let's see what happens. So this time c8 takes the material, just grabs a pawn. KJJ has been doing more the material slow play the last few games. So it's an interesting, just rook takes on b7, because if rook takes back, but I think you could do knight takes knight. So then you just pawn takes knight, and so does c8 have anything here? He's got the knight and the rook hanging. So, the knight could move to f5, or he could try to, move the rook down all the way. He might just be able to take the knight, and yeah, he does. If he doesn't have anything to place right away on so maybe he feels that material is valuable. He might be able to do pawn at h7 and then knight at g4. I think that looks pretty devastating, like pawn at g7 and then knight at g4 if he takes back, but maybe he could just block, and it's not enough. So he does the pawn at h7, so it's his only pawn there. So this is a wild game, everything hanging. KJJ is up on time as usual, and tough to see the continuation. Can he take and then knight there and just pawn takes and then place at h3? That or does he have some other method in just playing h5 even? So he just doesn't have. Maybe he could play like pawn here. Maybe his idea is pawn here and to free the square for the knight. So that could be sufficient. So that looks sufficient. He has a queen and a rook, so this looks like it's going to be mate. Although he also has a knight, so even this bishop defending. So if he tries like pawn takes knight here and then running here, I think Crazy 8 will eventually have a knight here deflecting the bishop for a mate at g1. So was there a take back somewhere? I missed that. Maybe it's from the beginning. But yeah, this looks like GG. And pawn takes here, knight check there. He's got two knights even. So this is GG. Good one, Crazy 8. So yeah, just queen here and pawn there, GG. Okay, so 5-4, pretty close match. Crazy 8, that was a very dynamic. Crazy 8 was able to find the mate there. Good work. And this final game, Crazy 8 does have white, and otherwise we'll have playoffs, 2-by-2 matches. So if this does go, if KJ wins this game, then it'll be one off till someone wins a match of 2. And so you get a similar idea, the over protection on d5. So we'll see what Crazy 8 goes for. So usually you don't want to castle right in, because if he takes the bishop here, You might want to take open file, so he trades, and then he'll bring the knight in again. So we've been getting these positions quite a few times. Like if he does bishop take, and if he does pawn takes, then just knight in. And if he does bishop takes, then he might not want to give up g2 so quickly. So probably okay. And he even plays knight at h5 first. So he tried taking the knight, then both of these bishops fall. So probably has to play bishop at f6, maybe even something. So bishop f6 looked pretty obvious. So maybe now he plays knight e5, or maybe he takes the bishop first. So just knight at e5. Probably he could open the d file. So even if bishop takes, and maybe he plays bishop takes, pawn takes, and opening the d file is probably safe for c8, but hard to know. So he didn't get knight c3 off, and so potential. Obviously, if he takes the knight, checking doesn't help because he'll go back. So probably does he take with the pawn or the bishop? So he probably take with the bishop to get a little bit more material first. The king looks relatively safe, but you have another dynamic game, so he probably has to go for it. And the queen trade, so he goes for the queen trade, and now he could pick up the knight. So maybe just bishop here. Then I guess if he blocks with the bishop, then you just rinse and repeat. So bishop picking up the knight looks pretty good actually. So I'm not sure if c8 saw that, or he even places a bishop there. So, and even his knight there, if he plays king there, does he try playing knight here first? Obviously he plays knight there, and then like king there. If he doesn't have anything immediate, he could do the same trick back. So probably has to play something like bishop here just to defend e2. Oh, so he develops his knight. So he dropped a piece there. He has the open g7 square. You probably bishop at b5. I'm not sure if developing the knight was the best move for KJJ there, because just the bishop opening up the hole. But he does have these bishops defending the light squares. So can he just play bishop at f6? Not sure how valuable that is. Maybe bishop at f6 is so he goes for that. That actually looks pretty painful. Like, how does he stop that? And he needs a pawn, so he doesn't even have a check it would be that painful to drop his bishop there. I mean, he could also just run. If he had a pawn, that would be a little bit more dangerous, but he doesn't have a pawn. So KJ down to 28 seconds. He has to come up with some way to stop the attack, to defend g7. So I guess he could just play the knight there and pick up the bishop back. So he could probably just take the bishop. Knight there doesn't seem enough. So c8 has a decent amount of time advantage in this game. So I'm assuming he's going to take the bishop, although because taking the knight, and he doesn't have, I don't think knight there is going to lead to immediate mate threat. So he probably has to take the bishop, because bishop takes knight, and then knight here would be checkmating. So he has to take that, but he doesn't have any material for a second. So just king to c1 seems safe. And he really needs a pawn. The pawn helps more than the bishop. So I'm not sure if he was wise to do that. So I think he could. I mean, he could take the queen. He's probably going to have to take the queen, and then, but he doesn't have. He doesn't have. Oh, the knight. Yeah, he doesn't have the final pawn for mate. So if he's going to take the queen, and then he has, a knight check, and then he's going to take here, and he has two different checkmate threats. So king here, and unfortunately, he has mate threat on d2 and b2. So it's not looking good. He can't really doesn't look like he has anything. So unfortunately, it looks over. I mean, he could play the knight at d2. Okay, so the drop. Oh, he has two queens. He did have two queens, so pawn push. So maybe this is winning. Sometimes you forget that you have two queens there, but it still might not be sufficient, even the two queens. So takes and a knight, and now I don't even see any checks. So good one, KJ, noticing that that he has the two different mate threats that were undefendable. So we're going to have overtime here. And so we had first 4 white wins, and now we have had 6 black wins. And all d4, d5, every single game has been these d4, d5 lines. And we got overtime. Take a little sip, a little drink. Okay, rest my voice a second. Check the chat. So appreciate Andre Nielsen and Oki tuning in. So taking a 1-minute break. So yeah, pretty crazy game there. Just check some computer. So we just didn't have anything. So at E2. So actually at E2, no, didn't. I mean, I guess at F3 or E2, but yeah, probably would have been mating either way. So let's keep at this. Let them do a minute break, and I'm not going to do computer analysis. People could look that up later. If Crazy 8 wants to look at some computer analysis afterwards, we could do that. And KJ been having pretty good performances in he's only 2,200, but very strong performances in the World Championship, and leading to another overtime. I think the last time he also won in overtime against his last opponent. So let's see what happens here. And looks like we're going to have the same repeat opening. And see what happens. Pretty interesting. Got overtime, and the last 6 games have all been won by black. Slight variations in the opening. So KJ has been going for the H3, G5 lines. At most, minor change up in. So this goes back to one of the earlier games. I think KJ, I'm not sure if he won that game where he did one of the earlier games where he did bishop E5 and C8 had done knight F6. So we get a different line here, this time playing F6, which I think computer-wise is a superior move. And like the Ben Feingold never play f6, and so knight e7 even, certainly he doesn't want to play f3 here. That would be almost losing right away. So although you can't even play f3 next move, so not sure if knight h4 was a weaker move. You could almost play f5 or something, but he probably doesn't want to do that, or bishop, but probably just develop his pieces. Knight c6, knight e7, maybe knight f5. So you're losing my voice a little bit, and tough to talk. It's been stream going on here has been an hour 20 minutes, so mega battle here. And I'm not even going to give Oki a moderator. There, you got a wrench. Oki gave you a wrench, so I don't think you need to do anything. I'm not planning on anyone. You need to ban anybody. I give Oki a wrench, one of the godfathers of Crazy House organizers, top 200 player, but probably one of the major streamers, theoreticians in the game. So there you go, Oki. There you go. You got a wrench. So queens on opposite sides. And c8 invites taking on b7, and he doesn't go for it. He runs to the queen's to safety, and I'm not sure what does he place a bishop at g7? Does he bring a bishop back? Does he, so yeah, unfortunately the pawn on e6 is hanging, and also the pawn on f6 is hanging, but he probably can't afford to take on g7 and then f7, but he takes the bishop first. So he probably has to move rook there, and he probably has to be all in. I'm assuming he's going to take f6, but he could conceivably take on h7, or he could sack the queen and try for a knight or something. But presumably he's planning on taking on f6. He only has a knight, so but the queen could pop right back into play. So it could have some sort of like rinse and repeat, like knight check and knight takes, then pawn takes, and then knight at h4. That was what I was thinking. So queen takes. I mean, I guess knight at f6. He has to bring the king here. And then you just play bishop at f6. It looks like GG. Bishop at h6 looks GG. So unfortunately, this looks GG. Bishop at h6, and he just has no material. He doesn't even have a blocker. He has to move. He has to block with the knight. So this is GG here. Unfortunately, Crazy 8 looks like he's going down. He'll have another chance for a black win, and I guess he puts the queen in, which probably it doesn't matter. Rook at d7 is just a mate. So you have just rook at d7 and a mate in 2. He missed rook at d7, but it doesn't matter. c8 just doesn't have any material, so too bad there. And wow, KJ might get another upset, and so, but that was black. So that was the first. What happened there? Yeah, so KJ won with white there. So he had 6 black wins in a row, and that was the first white win in quite a few games. So C8 needs to pull off a win here just to stay in the game. KJ gets a draw or win, the match is over. So draws are pretty rare in Crazy House, but they're possible. So he had some success in a previous game with the bishop provoking a c6 weakness. You bringing the knight in. Not sure if he has enough material to try like knight at f7 at g6. So Crazy 8 has not really been able to capitalize on the weakness here on g6. The great most of the games he's won have actually been material drains. He hasn't been able to capitalize on the obvious weaknesses that are opened up by this opening. And now his bishop's covering, but here he has the h5. So I think he should probably push h5 immediately. So we had a position like this before, and my memory is you're supposed to push h5 immediately, and maybe knight there, at least prevent the black knight from coming to h5, and then to have the permanent threat of some sort of piece to place at g6. So just threaten the pawn on c2. He could try taking, and so he just defends the pawn with the rook. This is a pretty common trope in this opening of these d-pawn openings, is placing a bishop and the double attack on c2 or c7. And I said these positions tend towards more slow playing of material drain than quick attack or sacrifices, and even being difficult to replenish material. So I might just play h5 here. And I think he missed that the last few games, but if he plays h5, saying he's not going to be castling here. Like, this position is not, white is very unlikely to want to castle in this type position. It's unclear, is black going to go for like c5 or something? Is that the threat, c5? And so he finds h5 this time. So I'm pretty sure that I mentioned that a few other games, that it was probably a mistake of him not to play that in earlier games. So if that was the idea, just slow play, attack on b2. So he probably has to take probably going to take d4, because he doesn't have any blockers. If he had a diagonal to place, he might be able to take f6 first. But now the knight, so this guy is saying, it's all over in the chat, that it's probably a mistake to allow it, because unfortunately if he had played knight takes and then knight takes, just the threat at d2 would have been too strong. I'm not sure if taking c2, how beneficial that is, if that's his idea, or if he has anything immediate. He might even be able to just play pawn at g5 even. So he even takes it's an odd move. So I got to say, I'm not sure. So he has the 2 pawns. So unfortunately, pawn at c3, although he has to defend him, he probably has to defend against pawn at c3. Maybe he could, because the knight threat, the knight's still on it. So if he had the double threat of knight check here and pawn there, but yes, pawn at c3 was a major threat because it would have came right after pawn at d2. Even queen takes knight for, the threat of knight there, or just the, so how does he stop the knight at f3? Is knight at f3 strong enough to, you're just going to take this knight? So time ticking down. c8 only has a few seconds left. So he's got to come up with something quick. He just takes the pawn, and if he does bishop takes knight, so is he scared to play just bishop takes knight and open up the king? Does he play king here or something? And so pawn there, threatened mate. Yeah, so he has to do pawn minimal defense hanging in there. So if he does queen takes knight, he maybe could even take the bishop. See what happens. Then knight takes, and then he doesn't have a second check. So time's ticking down. I'm not sure. So he takes the queen, and can he run? What happens? So if he runs, he gets the queen with check, but then can he? Very interesting here. So not much time. Yeah, so now he runs. He doesn't have the knight. Rook there. Can he just take the bishop? Yeah, just goes for it. And is the king safe? So he has to make the run for it. Does he have anything? Can he take the knight? Is that mating? Yeah, it looks mating. Well, no. Yeah, king. Is that mating? Yeah, it's mating. Okay, wow. KJ upsets Crazy 8. So unfortunate, Crazy 8 goes down against KJ. So unfortunate. So if he wants to come on and talk, he's welcome to. And, send him a link. If you want to talk. So he had good chances, but it was a tough match. And or even Oki, if you want to come on and talk, Oki, and put the StreamYard's link in the chat if Oki wants to come on and talk for a second. But yeah, tough match, and props to KJ. Not sure if he prepped that or what type of period was his mating all along. I'm not sure if that game was just over at that point. He had to come up with something better. That bishop there wasn't enough, and after taking on b7, so that simple bringing the queen out and attacking b2 proved sufficient. I guess just f3 was actually the move. So or castling. So too bad, and good luck in the rest of the championship. And I guess Crazy 8 was probably expecting to win. He was definitely a favorite and higher rated, but who knows? KJ, I played him a long time ago, so he's beat me a few times, but the games we played were from over a year ago when he was actually higher rated than me, and so it's possibly there'd be a mismatch in the opening, but Yeah, so I don't think people were necessarily expecting an upset there like that, but KJ got an upset in the last match, and another upset, and I guess they'll play Emtree. So I wonder why if he keeps on having. Let me see. I'll take the screen share off. He might not want to talk. God forbid if he is took it. Okay, so I put so it looks like he's gonna be a good sport and come on anyway. So Shalom.
Shalom.
Hey, Crazy 8, tough match. I was watching that and put it back on screen share. I guess you were a favorite, but KJ's tough opponent. He knocked off his last opponent about your strength, and it's a tough match. I'm not sure if you want to look at some of the games or you just want to talk a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to say. It was really tough, like 90 minutes, like football. And I didn't play so well with white today. And I couldn't win with black too much. So it was tough games, long games. And I made a few wrong sacrifices with white, I think, in some of the games. And let's see, I also opened the games.
Yeah, I didn't analyze the games. If you want to do a screen share, I'll share your screen at the bottom of at the bottom. You don't have to, but
Okay.
if you want, just click on screen share at the bottom, and then I'll share your screen, and you could go over them. I didn't have time to analyze the games. It was a pretty weird dynamic where the first 4 games were won by white, and then the next 6 games were all won by black, and then he pulled off and won 3 in a row. So if if this is your first time using StreamYards, at the the bottom there's mute, cam, mic, and then a screen share button. So you click on screen share, it opens up a new window, and then you click on your screen, and then.
Okay, let me try this. Maybe I share. Yeah, okay, I think I got it.
I'll see it at the bottom. Okay, so.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah, this was the last game. I played very poorly in the first game, which was pretty stupid. Like h5 too early, which also I played against someone else. I think Bagaus night. I lost 1 game with this move. Not in this position, but and now I didn't manage to trade the bishop on b4, which is not good. So h5 is not good, but I also played this game later, and I won with black when I played another move. I played 95, 94. This is much better, of course. And after winning 1, equal position. So h5 was not good, and then he played well, I think. So this was the first game. Yeah, he played well. Like I had nothing to do.
Yeah, it didn't look good here. I was watching that, and once he had the even a few moves back, it didn't look good for you, and your attack you just didn't have enough material, and then the queen f7, you just had sufficient material. Even without that, as I said, like I'm not a d4 player, so I'm not an expert in any of these openings to know what was where it went wrong. But at some point it just where you had the 2 knights and your bishop just wasn't looking good.
Yeah, the first game I think after h5, like move on number 10, it's plus 7, and I have nothing, so it's not really good. And in these openings, if I have 1 less active piece, it's really bad because no pawns and not much dynamics. It's pretty strategically lost, I think. So also here I tried the h4, which is fine with white. This game I somehow won, but it wasn't so clear. Yeah, this was strong by him to take and to play bishop a5. I think so. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, I remember seeing it look weird when you took with the pawn there, but I don't know these lines. Usually, I would talk to we were messaging before the match just a little about Crazy House Theory. I was talking about how it's not like Bug House because you could exactly control the material. So in positions like this, you don't tell your partner like don't do this or that, and theoretically, it's very difficult to know. You might have all these holes, and even though there's a lot of pieces, it's just you can't get the material you need to further the attack. So here you're actually +6, and then
just after I blundered with this move. This is silly move. Computer says castles, and if I take, is better, which is sensible. My king is not so good, but I blundered really quickly, and now I have mate soon, and now I find a pretty nice mate soon enough. Knight at b8. I missed it in this move, but I found it later. But it's not such a good game. Let's see the third game. Okay, this is really strange. I didn't really understand this. f6 maybe, but I tried f6 in later and I lost, I think. Last game, maybe. Or second to last. 9.
Yeah, I thought f6 is probably the better move there, but I don't know these openings.
Yeah, pretty equal. I'm happy with my move bishop takes d3. This game I think I played well. This was nice. I wasn't sure if it's good enough. Maybe computer says -50. And soon enough it was.
Yeah, I was shocked that you lost this, and even that move knight at
I lost this move.
knight at b1, that it seemed just like you overthought. You spent a minute, and I mean, like when you take the second rook, like you just take the second rook, and I mean, I guess like knight at e4 seemed obvious.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure what after king c2. It's all pretty good, I guess. This is not a real queen, so maybe. Yeah.
Oh, so knight at e4 wasn't actually that good.
No, knight at b1 was okay. See, computer says everything -40. I felt like this is really good because I had in tempi. I attack first. This is what I felt like, but I wasn't sure how to win with the rooks. I put this position, and now I froze and played something, and then I messed up. Which is really
I was shocked you lost this. I mean,
yeah.
Even obvious type moves because you're up so much material. He doesn't have that. You really could have just played bishop takes bishop and solidified your position.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
And then you sacked the rook. Like if you could have sacked, like even if you had sacked on the knight, and I mean you still had your. Yeah, this was almost shocking that, but it's the nature of Crazy House that all of a sudden the king runs to the king side, and you're in a little bit of trouble all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's like I'm winning, but I messed up in time pressure. Now it's also mate, but not so clear. This game was really insane because if king got to the 8th rank, so it was a really big time pressure. Now I'm supposedly winning. King e7 is the winning move, maybe. It's a nice game, but yeah, I shouldn't have messed it up. Maybe it's a draw.
Yeah, then he even wins at the end. I mean, that he realizes that he could just block on g2.
Yeah,
and
g7. Yeah.
You say, yeah, too bad.
Yeah, it's losing. I didn't find anything, and then I'm lost. Yeah, this was unfortunate, but then I got back with white. I think maybe here I should just play e5, e4 instead of knight here because this position is not so clear, but of course it's also good. I play like this, normal development moves. I'm not sure, here I wasn't sure if to castle is so good, but I wasn't sure what to do. I wanted a knight, and he gave me a knight, which is nice. So castles is a good move, I guess. He gave me the knight, and I played the normal fork on c7. Tried it to win the queen, not with rook b8, but with a pawn on the 7th rank to get a new queen, which is better, and I won this game pretty nicely. Oh, the mate here was nice. Yeah, here I missed queen takes e8. But what I did is also okay enough, and now this is a nice mate. Queen takes, check, takes. Yeah, this game was good, like clean. Yeah. He
Yeah,
played
the
a bad
first few
opening.
games are looking good. Like it looked like the games you lost, like you got into time pressure and had good attacks and just couldn't find the mate. But as the series continued, at the end, it was actually him that got the upper hand the last few games.
Yeah. True. Let's see what happened here. Okay. It's quite annoying that a computer says it's better for black, but okay, this is a bad opening by him, and I also won this game. And I won this game pretty cleanly as well, I think. Rook c8, and I have better piece placement. The bishop on a4 is not so good. So he played a3, I also played a6, just wanted to waste some time, but... And then he took. Actually, I didn't play so good. I didn't like my move knight a7, yeah. Up to here it was fine. And I felt like it's not really
Yeah, if you watch the string back later, like knight a7, I was like, just sack the knight, and I thought you missed like bishop at c2 and then the double take and then the pawn on d4 hangs. That like here I was just like but maybe that wasn't good. But
it's fine, but it's a bit slow. I try to create something. Yeah, the knight on a7 is a silly move, but it also worked out because after bishop d3 I'm fine. I'm doing well again. But if the bishop back, yeah, it's just a very strange move. But it also opens up my rook, and he can't take the knight later. So it's not such a bad move, I suppose. Yeah,
yeah, it achieves the point. I mean, most people like Crazy House because they like crazy attacks and are less materialistic. So even if it was objectively the better move, you assume that the vast majority of Crazy House players would have just sacked it.
Yeah. Oh, here I missed something. Yeah, I missed something which I saw before to take and to put something on h3. I completely missed it, and I think I also missed this attack later. I forgot he can take the pawn. I thought it's a fine move, but also time pressure was starting to sink in. So it's a game again, but I'm still better, which is a bit funny.
Well, use up a lot of material.
Yeah. Here I wasn't sure how to attack, so I thought we are both in time pressure. Maybe I shouldn't allow him to checkmate me because this is mating simply. Knight at h6 and also rook at h8 is an idea. So rook at g6 is always a fine move, but of course it's not the best move. Bishop at h6 was the correct move. Computer says to keep a rook, but it's not really clear. So let's see what happened. Okay, now he made also a defensive move because he wasn't sure what to do. I made a bad move. It's just time pressure. Somehow I won this one because he completely blundered. He let me checkmate him. You remember this one?
Yeah, I might even mention that he might walk into that and
yeah, he walked into that. Yeah.
I guess he had a mate there with knight at f7.
Rook at g8. I had also a nice mate with black, like this later in the match. I think something like this. This is
we get to that later game where you open up the h file and then push the pawn. And I mean, if you watch back my commentary later, I thought you were probably going to go for it, but I didn't see a mate, and then it ended up being there.
Yeah, this game I'm really upset about because here, of course, I need to play bishop h4 and the normal position with. Actually, it's a bit more pleasant when I have this spin, but of course, not much. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. So I was kind of silly to take and to play this move. Like, I think I'm not sure why I did this. I know it's wrong, so I'm not sure why would I play like this. bishop h4 and normal position. And he played pretty well. This is not so good, but well, it takes. It's a sharp position, but no reason to play like this. I felt like I'm the better player, so I need to play simple. But for some reason, I went into this. And now I played fine, I think, but I lost this game. H4 is not a good move by computer. I thought about knight here, but always if I go to c5, he has bishop at b4 check. So I also give him a4. So I don't like this. I also didn't really want to castle. So I set him myself. The mindset was pretty much wrong, because you can see how I played. I just took on f7 and got a bad position and lost this game pretty quickly. So this was really stupid. I thought about taking right away, which is better. This is not good. I missed, I think, the power of g takes f3. So couldn't win with white. It also happened later in the match when I was ahead. I also had the match point on game number 10, and I lost it.
Yeah, you're just down too much material, nothing.
Oh, I have mate after bishop takes. Computer says takes, queen takes, bishop at g8, which I saw this idea, of course. Takes, rook takes h6. What a move. Okay, this is computer lines, yeah. Takes. Rook at h8. Yeah, this is like insane, but I had no time. So my mindset was, okay, I won't ever have a chance to checkmate him. I might need to defend, and then hopefully I will have a counterattack.
Yeah, it's funny there was a mate there, but yeah, it didn't look good. You were just down too much material, and you only had diagonals. You didn't have anything to work with. And once he cleared off h8 for his king, but it is funny that you did have some sort of mating attack there.
Yeah, actually, it's a silly move. I thought he would play this, and then I take maybe. This is a really silly move. It opens up for my rook, and of course, if king moves, it's mate. And this is pretty nice. So I had a missed chance, but really didn't deserve to win this game. Game number 6.
Yeah,
So
getting
now,
a big series here of all black wins now.
yeah, it's funny. So this is like resembles the first game, I think, or no? A bit, because I played bishop on b4, which is good. Maybe here I need to put my bishop on g6 to a v4 for a knight, but it's something else. Play normal, and this is really a strange move. I didn't really get it because the queen is not good here. Played normal, maybe h6 is not the best. Takes a knight on c4, yeah. Schematic idea. Okay, let's see the game. So I castled, he took, and this I was pretty happy about. And I let him do pawn at e7. Of course, I saw this move, but I was, again, too aggressive, maybe, after knight at e4, f4, excuse me. What did you think about this position, David?
Yeah, I was shocked that you didn't play knight takes h3. I was looking at it, and it was pretty interesting, and there were a few different times in that you went for a different line and you didn't play knight takes h3. I was certain that's what you were going to try for, but yeah, I thought you were worse these games because you just didn't have enough material to get in the attack, and then he takes on b7, and the bishops have defense from the long time. I'm not sure if you're reading the chat. We got Oki here. I'm not sure if Kavish Javeri is a strong player or not, but if you check the YouTube link, there's some people in the chat now making comments also that we're watching. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm when you rewatch the video later, I was just kind of shocked that you took on f3 instead of h3.
Yeah, this was also not so good.
Well, there's somehow you won this. It was kind of crazy mate at the end, but
yeah, the mate was beautiful, I think. Yeah, but my idea was maybe I have ideas like check and queen on h2, but the thing is, this is not a real queen, so this move is wrong. I knew it's a wrong move because the knight helps me, and I have knight on e2 now. It just needs to play queen takes d6 and pawn at d5 or something like this. Yeah, you see, like, and I have nothing. For some reason, I felt like he might want to hold on to this queen because he forgot it's fake. It's only a pawn. Maybe if we played over the board, he wouldn't play a move like this because it doesn't make much sense. It just gives me a knight for free, I think.
Yeah, I mentioned when I was streaming that just the power of the queen in hand to eventually to have all those mate threats that eventually he succumbed to one of them.
Yeah.
And
Now
I guess
I know,
here you're already better.
Yeah, I'm much better because we both have the same material and I have the better king. So this move is a bit passive, but he wants me to a knight locked up, and if I move it, it just takes any square. So I played this move, which is the right idea, which is fine. Computer says something like knight at e1, which is really strange, but the idea is probably also to attack h3, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I was watching. I even mentioned knight at d2 was I was thinking just to attack f3, but I guess at e1 is better.
Why is that? Let's say like this. Now, yeah, the idea is to play something like this. This is why I played knight e3 with the same idea, and then he played a really strange move, which is just losing. He took the pawn. I don't really understand why he played this move.
Well, I mean, time pressure. People make mistakes.
Yeah. And now I chose this square. Maybe knight e1 is maybe better, but I don't really know why. And now I found a nice move, and bishop at d1. With the idea of a normal checkmate pattern. Takes, check. Oh, actually I'm missing a knight, but it's still winning. Pawn at f5 wins. Queen at h2 doesn't. But even computer says pawn at f5, and just not so sure where is the mate. Like, what's the idea? Oh, this is really nice. Smothered mate. Queen 8 and bishop.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cute. Yeah, that's almost a computer move that you play the queen there anyways.
But I know this bishop at g1 is probably a good move because after I saw this position and I wasn't sure. But of course it's also winning. It's just and now our computer finds mate. But I think I would have won anyway. It just moved the king, which is just losing. But I thought I have a forced mate here as well, but apparently I need to go back and just play a slow move. It's good. Also okay. Okay, let's see the next game. Yeah. So again, I felt pretty good because I'm ahead again, and I also once again I lost with white. This time around I played myself g3 and computer doesn't like it. I didn't really like once again we go into this position. I'm not really sure what's so good about it. It probably just transposes to normal stuff in this position, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a player. I thought in a few of these I mentioned that when I was commenting that a few of the times, like I thought you were supposed to play h5 right away. When you play h4, then you got to play h5 in order to prevent his knight from coming to h5 and to back up on g6. And actually, the last game you played that, but I thought there was a few other games where I mentioned. I thought that you missed that idea or played it too late. But yeah, this was a normal game. I was even saying that. I see in the clear cast videos, there's a lot of these knight takes d5 lines. So I guess you probably, before you bring your bishop out, that you could just do knight takes d5 and then fork on e4. And that's
I didn't know about this idea.
Yeah, I've seen in Clearcast videos that he does that all the time. People fall for letter play right into that all the time.
Yeah, it's probably a very strong idea. Like, you need to get pawns somehow to attack in Crazy House, but if you don't have pawns, it's a much slower game.
Yeah, once you play bishop e3, then the knight.
Again, this was really strange. Who plays a6 in such a position in Crazy House? I didn't really get it, so I felt good about this position, and I also lost this game, which is also really annoying too. But it's just the opening phase, so maybe not
This
sure why
one,
I didn't do it right away.
yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
you're like all in, and that you would have to sack the queen there eventually. I guess a pawn there, and
Yeah.
it was tough to tell. Like I thought you were better for a while, and then it just fizzled out, and you were just down too much material.
Yeah. This position, I know it should be good for white, but really not clear why. I saw such
I thought
idea.
bishop g5 was.
Yeah, this is a nice, but also not winning or anything, but still a game with some pressure, and the queen is not as good as in chess. It's not
Just
so
because
good.
he can't take it. I mean, I'm pretty sure he can't take it, but I mean, just
Yeah, of course,
that bishop g5 was better.
This is not good. Bishop at d2, bishop at f4. It's nice. The computer says this move, but it's all winning. Like white is winning, of course. It's still a game, but the king.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you weren't sure if that was winning.
Yeah, I was sure about it, but the game went. I played.
It's not when he goes back anyways, but assuming he's going to go back, you're better off with the bishop at g5 than f4.
I know. I played h3. The idea was to have more material after he might move his knight out, which is sensible, I suppose. And then attack. It's just different position, and we got the same thing. And I did manage to lose this position, but it's really interesting. I don't have much experience in Crazy House, and especially in such positions, which is a long game. But it was very interesting. Now I won the rook. I knew he's slightly better, but now he's soon to be much better. I need to keep going probably to take. Yeah, this was a way too.
You lost the thread here somewhere, and then you were just down too much material. So I remember looking somewhere, and then at this point you're just like no material was over.
Yeah, and here I lagged out, so I lost some time. Yeah, so maybe I still have a chance if I play knight takes f7. After this, it just plays on material and I lost. Yeah, correct. Maybe this is better, and if it takes, now the knight is protected.
But also, still, like your knight,
not so nice.
Your knight a4 is just like at this point, like you're all in, just sack on d5 or something like that. But you also, at this point, move like knight a4.
I only have one pawn in end, so I didn't really find anything. So,
but I mean, you're already basically all in to.
Yeah, you're right. I need to play something like this. Yeah, but of course I will not have mate, but it's better objectively. This was just silly, yes. I was pretty upset about this game. Maybe I shouldn't play with g3 if I don't know the main ideas. But it's fine. He played well. I have to give him much credit. I thought I would play better than him, but I did not. It was an equal match.
It's possible he was helped also. I mean, it's possible that that one of the stronger players helped him prep. It wouldn't surprise me. Not that it takes away his victory. That's what proper preparation prevents poor performance. And if one of the stronger players was willing to help him out, like certainly it's not against the rules for him to take the help. But that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, maybe. This was also a silly move. I wanted to take the pawn. It kind of worked. But of course, it's not the best. I should just put something on the board. This game I won, but it was my last win.
Yeah, I thought this was your best victory. Like this was a really awesome game, dynamic, and.
But this was way too fast. This I didn't get. But I almost messed this game up when I gave him the pawn. This I wasn't sure about. It's like all in because after I give him the pawn, if I lose one tempi, he has pawn at d7, and I'm basically mated because king moves and rook at e8, and I have nothing to do.
Yeah, I saw this, and then I thought, like, this is what you had to go for, and then I eventually, you watched the video back. I said this is probably what you're going to do, but I didn't see the final, and then that you do have pushing the pawn to g3 to free the square for your knight.
It's not so clear. He blundered in 2 moves. He played knight at a6, which is losing right away, of course.
Because he gave you that second knight. Like, if he had just used the pawn, that's funny.
I still take the pawn, and I have g3 on the menu. If he takes, g3 is winning idea. So yeah, it just wins.
Oh, it's at h3. Rook at 8. Playing at h3 was the better move.
Still g3 is the winning move, yeah. I didn't see it beforehand, but it's nice to vacate the square for the knight on g4. This is the idea.
Oh, so only rook at h3. Did that save him? Nothing saves him.
Yeah. This is just losing by not by force, but it's just
by assumption, as I guess the clearcast the Netherlands player, mate by assumption.
Mate by assumption, yes. Mate by logic.
Okay, right. So you lost to the Netherlands players. That's the expression that clearcast the Netherlands uses, mate by assumption.
Yeah, I heard it before. So this was a nice game, but first I thought about rook d1, but it's a bit slow. If I had a pawn on c2, maybe. But he can just take, and I give him the tempo. It's not a good idea, generally. He has no pawn, but after I gave him the pawn, if it doesn't work, so I might lose the game. But luckily, it wins very nicely with opening up everything with checks, and then g3 with check wins. So it's nice. This game was nice, and also after this game, I felt like, okay, I might win the match now. It's going to be perfect, but it wasn't. He played really well. So this once again. This time I played like this. Maybe giving check is a bit better. Not so popular. Okay, this is the main move. Or knight b2. Yeah, here I messed up. This was just such a blunder, knight on e5. So silly.
I was looking at this. I saw maybe you were safe opening up the d file, and I was mentioning that I thought that's what you were going to do, but I guess it just I'm not sure if the reason why it's not good is because
maybe just 95 right away.
But yeah, it's because of the bishop check. I mean, the reason it's losing is because at the end he's going to have bishop at g4 picking up the knight.
Yeah, it doesn't lose, but it makes my king so unsafe, and it's really tough. But what to do else?
Well, I think it's. I mean, you're going to see that it's that at the end of the combination, it's the bishop at g4 picking up the knight that does it to you.
Yeah, I know that. This is a better
which is hard to see that at the end your king's going to be at d1, and and then he's.
Yeah, I know I'm lost, but it's still a game. At first I thought he has mate in 2 with queen at c1, but luckily after king d2 I'm still alive, but not for so long. If he takes, but he gave me a chance. He let me back into the match. Now I play this, and this is a bad move, I think. C6.
Yeah, it didn't look good at all bringing his knight out like that. But I mean, obviously he's just up material. But yeah, I thought you had minor chances, and his mate actually at the end is very nice, very beautiful. How he sacks 2 queens, and then he has the double mate threat at d2 and b2.
Yeah, I was shocked he's winning this, but it was winning all the way. So yeah, I'm really upset about this move 95. Also played it pretty quickly. I tried to attack early, and then I get lost so early. Lost position. It's not so nice, but here, yeah, it's a really nice motive, which I'm lost. I have nothing to do for my king. It's completely
because it's a mate on b2 and d2. I mean, I guess you had minor, like if you tried like bishop. Was the move bishop at f3, or that doesn't even help? Try to give yourself a square to run to.
Yeah.
bishop. I mean, if you do pawn at f3, then he's going to be able to drop the pawn on b2. But bishop at f3.
It just takes, yes. And this doesn't help. Because he has, if I take, pawn at b2 and takes.
Wait, was bishop at f3 different?
I didn't even consider this move. I thought I must go for it. I have 2 queens, but maybe
just because now.
But because just now I don't give a pawn. Yes, I know. I can take, and he has no pawn. But even if he takes, I still have no checkmate threat. He's safe enough, even with all this material. So it's just lost. Yeah, this is insane. This position is really insane. I have 2 queens, and I'm dead lost.
Yeah, it was definitely the most interesting game. Was he looking at this game too? Looks like on your screen. I'm not sure if looks like he's analyzing the game also.
Yeah. Yeah, this was really tough. And then we got into overtime. And let's see the games. It was still interesting, but I lost both of them. Okay, some chat. Okay, let's see the game. Here I played f6, and now it says bishop takes e5. Best move, maybe. Oh, knight f6 is fine because it just gave me a free tempo, kind of. So this is what I played in another game, no? It was a bit different with the pawns, maybe, but
it's interesting how he changed it up. Like he kept on. Both of you played slightly different variations. Like he tried the bishop at e5 and a few different lines. This one was pretty crazy. Like that. I mean, at some point it didn't look good. Like after your queen a5 and bishop there, it just starts looking bad.
Yeah, I forgot about bishop takes e6. Yeah, I completely lost the thread after he won the last game, and a bit tired at this point. Maybe castles is the only normal move to stay alive. What is king f8? If he takes, bishop at f7 or something, bishop at c8. Yeah, this is a nice move. Tough to spot. If he takes, I win his queen. With something like this. Yeah, didn't really think about castles. I kind of panicked when he attacks both of my pawns, and I regret a bit about playing f6 moves early, because I don't really play it much. Yeah, maybe I need to play long castles and change the nature of the game. No one knows about how to attack queen side. We all know how to attack the king side, so practically this is the best worst move. Check was not good. I saw knight c6. I kind of panicked, I think. It's still a fine position after castle, so something like even bishop g5 is okay. Yeah. I just lost this game with no chance, I think. Here I thought maybe I can play something like this, but I also forgot once again about
f6. Knight's just going to pop right in there and it's all over, and you don't even have any material after that. It's like, oh man, bishop a6, and you don't even have a pawn to block. It's all over.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, so this is a lost position.
Maybe I'd look for a second at knight at f3.
It doesn't work because knight takes a first and then queen takes, and I'm lost. I'm just lost. I have nothing.
I guess knight back at h4 was, I think, at least like knight back at h4. You have the threat on f3 and g2, but that looked like your best chance. But yeah,
I saw this and I wasn't so satisfied. So I thought to myself, maybe I can trade queens and hope for something like this, because h2 is open. Maybe I can get something lucky. But no, it's just that lost. It was a bad game by me. Really threw this one, and last game was also not good, I think.
I mean, props to KJ. I guess he's he keeps on winning these match plays. His rating's so low. I mean, not relatively. I mean, that low, but he's not even in the top 100, but keeps on winning these matches.
Yeah, it's insane. But to be honest, I think he's a strong player. He also played a lot of games. He played almost 5,000. I didn't play 1,000 yet. Only 600. at least here. I played a lot of Bughouse, but it's not the same. And he played really well today. It could have been anyone's match, and he won today.
It was crazy. His idea worked here with. So this one you actually finally play the H4, H5 quickly, and then he just has this, brings his queen over quietly and picks off B2, and it's like, GG.
Yeah, it was really tough. I thought to myself, maybe now H4 is fine because E4 is more covered, but I forgot about bishop at E4 idea. Now it's really strong and it hits both of my pawns. So it's really good for black, this position, I think. I don't like white. I don't have really good ideas, and this never works in practice. It has nothing. The king is so safe. So maybe it's very nicely played with him on the fianchetto or bishop with G6 or with G5 or same as white. Maybe not H4, but still. What did I do wrong? Yeah, check is not so good, I suppose. Bishop D3 is better.
Oki's in the chat too, saying he thought maybe you had knight at F7 after queen D6.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm not sure.
And this prep is like I don't play these lines, so he might have still been in prep in some of these games. Tough to know, and I said it's very possible. Maybe he's buddies with Katask or something, and he helped him out.
Yeah, maybe. So such a clean win with black in the last game. I was hoping to have something, and I think he gave me a chance soon enough with this.
It's when the at C3 was such a powerful threat, but
yeah. So I blocked, and this was a strange move because he can just take the knight.
Yeah, I was shocked that
first to attack. So
it looked like it was over, and then minor chances here.
But after he took, I still.
But was F6 the best move, or did you have something different there?
Let's let the computer think. But even after F6 and queen takes, I'm still not in good shape, I think.
It's funny, knight at F6 even.
And that's nice. But the idea is to have.
Or even knight H4, but interesting.
Knight H4 idea I thought about. If he takes here, I will play new knight on H4 to try and defend. This move I saw, but it's just lost. This position is just lost. But yeah, new knight on H4, but it's still lost. So I wasn't sure what is threatening, so I fought for a few seconds and played pawn at F6, but it's still good for black. I maybe had one more chance later, but he played really, really strong. He's just winning here. And in this position, I had to block with knight. Not sure why I moved. I took with the king. My only hope here was that he might take and expect me to take with the king, or maybe he will do just something like this, and I hold something like this. I knew I might change the nature of the attack, but he didn't give me a chance. He played this move, which is strange, but then he has takes, and he actually picks up an extra pawn or something like this compared to this.
He doesn't need the extra pawn. He could just play queen. I mean, the queen E2 sacrificing the queen is the move, so he doesn't even need to pick up the extra pawn.
Yeah, of course. So how many people are watching us right now? Such a long match.
We're down to 6 people. We got Oki, just over 10 people during the match. I stream different stuff, so I get like different audience. I have like almost 2,000 subs. Probably less than 200 of my subs are chess related, and maybe only like 50 of my subs are Crazy House related. And Crazy House, there's a lot like Horde. I stream sometimes, or Racing Kings. There's not that many strong players that stream it, as opposed to Crazy House. There's a lot of players better than me that stream also. But Oki's in the chat. He was asking me if I considered participating. Like, no, I didn't. I mean, I would. It's very competitive and kind of like zero sum. and I didn't think I had any chance to make it to the finals. So I just sat it out. Although I did sign up for the variance championship, I think I actually have decent chance of making it to the finals in the variance because I'm top 50 at Racing King's Horde and top 100 at Crazy House. There were a few people. I don't know if you heard some chess player Andre Nielsen was commenting a little bit. He may have. I put the link in the chat, so he might be one of the stronger players that said a few comments in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Andre Nielsen, yes, I opened your YouTube channel. Who is that?
He's not. Oki might still be watching right now. Just during the match, there was a guy, Andre Nielsen, with 2 S's, so he's probably Norwegian of some sort, that was commenting. And I know, for whatever reason, Bughouse and Crazy House, the Norwegian players, are exceptionally strong. So Andre Nielsen might be one of the players, but I'm not exactly sure. I put the link in the chat at the beginning of the stream, and then Oki, obviously the main ZH streamer that I mentioned too, that he was kind of like the godfather of Crazy House, organizing tournaments and commenting and teaching, even though he's not. I'd be slightly more competitive than him, but it's a very tough competition. Saying in just the KJ, whatever reason, I don't know much about him, but impressive performance.
Yeah, kudos to him. Not sure how to pronounce his name, kjjl, but it's a nice name.
He has his name in the link, whatever his identity is. And Zaraza was in the chat a little bit also. She streams in Russian occasionally.
Yeah, I know. I heard of her. I think rating doesn't mean that much. He played more games. He has more experience, and he is also a FIDE master. So overall, I'm not sure I was.
Well, rating is obviously the biggest predictor, because rating is purely based on past performance. But it could be that he's better at match play. Maybe put work into it. Maybe one of the experts like Katask or someone who knows these lines was helped him prep, or it could be any combination of reasons. But I was expecting you to win, but you never know. And saying that he played well, and you had your chances. Definitely, you like that one game at the beginning where you were plus 50 and had multiple mates. That was definitely disappointing. I think you might have had another towards the beginning where you had better chances, but tough loss, and it would have been very difficult to make it into the final 12. Like if you made it into the final 12, then you would have got good experience playing 100 plus games against the top players in the world. But you still had the experience. They said there's not that much Crazy House at the top level. You have the elite and a few private tournaments, or people just organize, and the Norwegians have an advantage in that way because there's a lot of strong players that maybe play each other all the time. But it's, as I said, like as you get near the top, it's basically zero sum because there's somebody on the other side that is might be just as smarter and putting just as much work into it. And at this point, it's the top people from all over the world, so it comes down to beating specific people as you get better, and who you're going to have to play, and the kind of work and that they've put into it.
Yeah. So I'm actually pretty happy that I'm out of the tournament. I have now I can focus on other things, in life, and maybe normal chess is better, because Crazy House is pretty fun hobby. I also play a lot of Bughouse, also over the board. We play in Israel on a weekly basis sometimes in the center of Israel, in Tel Aviv. I also played today with a few friends. So this is mostly an hobby, and I also play on chess.com sometimes.
Yeah, I competed up through high school and then never played another tournament game. And even like after 14, I got close to 2000 USCF by middle school. And I just lost the enjoyment after like high school. I really didn't. Bughouse was the only game I really enjoyed, and I would go to all the tournaments and try to put up a respectable performance. Competing as a junior, but Bughouse was what I enjoyed. And then later, when I came back to Detroit, I got into coaching, and but I coach mostly weaker players. So even being 2000 strength is sufficient to coach younger kids. When I was in Israel, I studied in yeshiva in Jerusalem, but I occasionally went to this bookstore on Ben Yehuda. I forget what it was called, but I was in Mea Sharem, and there was a bookstore in Ben Yehuda where they had Sheshpesh and chess that I would occasionally go, and they preferred Sheshpesh to chess, but there was. But
Sheshbesh is a very fun game. I also like Sheshbesh. It's a nice game. In English, I think we say Backgammon. Backgammon. Yeah. It's
in
a fun
Brooklyn,
game.
like yeshiva chess was very popular, but most of the players weren't that good. Like of the, like the rabbinic school chess is extremely popular. Maybe even like half people play it. The Lubavitch Rebbe loved chess, but relatively to competitive chess players, the strength level wasn't. So just being 2000, I even beat people blindfolded pretty easily, just being 2000 strength. And then when I came back, I think I just play variants. I found I refound enjoyment in chess in variants. I'm too old to compete, but yeah, Bughouse is a great game, and if you're still young, chess is a great way to compete. As you get older, the the monetary or the prize for being good at chess is diminishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also do a lot of chess because I'm also a coach. I teach kids mainly, and also in schools a few days a week, and private lessons, group lessons via Zoom, and with my club in Israel. I have 2 clubs which I teach in, and that's about it. I'm 21.
Yeah, I don't know if you met Yehonatan Kamenetsky, if you're in the same area. Like he actually recruited me. Like he saw me. Like I was, I studied in Israel. I put my flag to Israel, and then he reached out to me, and then he made me captain of his team, and then I recruited you. But he was very good at racing kings. I think he's doing pretty good. His father's some sort of rabbi and musician, violin player, but racing kings is his main thing. But I think he's improving, and so I like the variants. I'm sticking with that, and you do coaching also, like competitively. I'm more interested in cognitive theories, and even if you're coaching kids, using chess as a way to help kids think about action, reaction, karma, or just logical algorithmic thinking. And then here in Detroit, I've helped coach hundreds of kids, and even to think about cognitive development and how kids learn to think. So even though I'm coaching chess, I'm more interested in things like cognitive development and consciousness issues.
Yeah, it helps. It has a lot of. It goes into a lot of fields, of course, in chess. We all know about it, chess players, the benefits, and also there is now the Netflix series which exposed it a bit more to the world and many newcomers. And I like to teach kids. Also, my mom is a teacher herself, so I love this education. And also, I teach older people. I teach my neighbor who is 80 years old. I'm his coach.
I do it for fun, because it's even just being 2000 USCF is good enough skill that people ask me for help, and even I was down and out, so to say, Parnassa livelihood, and turned to coaching chess to make a few dollars. So if you don't have a profession or an easy way to provide income, that if you're chess master, you could usually like it beats driving a taxi or working as a cook or something. You could make $20-$30 or even more an hour coaching chess.
That's right.
I mentioned Oki's like Blitz Bullet wasn't even at chess camp like Blitz Bullets are now one of the top players. I was partially his coach. I mean, he used to come. He lived at this chess shop in Metro Detroit. Like his parents would just drop him off there, and he would spend all day there, every day. And I loved Bughouse at that place. Like people didn't like Bughouse, and I encouraged Bughouse. And he was already beating me when he was like 12. I even have a video of him beating me when he was like 12 years old.
Yeah, Blitz Bullet is very strong. And so someone wrote in the chat that Andre is hold has been on lichess, which is known as GNEJS, Genesis.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah,
I used to play him actually 20 years ago. I remembered him gens on when I was in high school. I stopped playing like Bughouse after high school, but I read those Oki articles. I appreciate him coming into the chat. I would give him a wrench if he ever comes back, because even my brother, like he was the legend, because before international traveler or internet was weak, there was just this random guy Jen who was one of the best at Bughouse. But it's pretty cool that the technology and the variants are kind of niche, where Bughouse is pretty popular and even more fun because it's social. Chess is kind of an anti-social game, as where Bughouse by nature is a social game. So as said, throughout high school I competed kind of just because I was good at it and wanted to prove myself or whatever, and it helped me get something on my resume to win chess tournaments. But Bughouse was the game that I enjoyed.
Yeah, of course. Bughouse is also addictive at some point. I like to play over the board mostly, and we also have 3, 4, 5 tournaments a year in Israel with all the good players. And it's a small country, so I know all the players, and I also play with top guys in Israel. If you know, to name a few, Pure Essence, he's also on lichess, and Caspi Wins, which is a new grandmaster in Israel. It's Israel Caspi.
I saw that, and I put my like I'm in Detroit, but I studied in Israel almost 3 years, and I promote Judaism, which isn't necessarily the same thing. So people are asking me if I knew Pure Essence, and I did watch the Bughouse finals, and saw them like that. I mentioned I was kind of very poorly behaved, and but I was coached by V. Friedman a few years. I went to summer camps and national tournaments. I'm not sure. I mean, he's an American citizen, I think, but V. Friedman, the Israeli, at least born in Israel, and now is one of the most prominent youth coaches in America.
Wow. Yeah, it's good to know some people and have some chess friends. I'm mostly a social guy. I don't use chess to. I'm not like one of those chess players who is not social. I try to have fun.
It's ironic because I'm kind of a math and science guy, and it's like Clearcast was saying he's getting a PhD or something in history, and but studies have shown that people from all sorts of backgrounds, there's no necessarily background like being most people think it's related to math or science, but the studies have shown that top players come from all sorts of backgrounds. And in Detroit I coach and not since COVID-19, hopefully I'll get back to it. It's called University Preparatory Science and Math, and chess is used related to mathematical reasons, but all of the studies have shown that that's inaccurate. And so whatever it is that makes people good chess players, actually chunking theory that the man Ferdinand Gobet, who I've done some videos on in Norwegian, also of what it is that allows people to be good chess players, that they call chunking theory, and it's got basically nothing to do with math and science, even though that's what most people assume.
Okay.
You're probably past midnight there, so I appreciate you coming on and coming to the stream. I assume we'll meet again and play next year. Good luck, tough loss, but appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course, it's okay. It's a fun tournament, and I'm happy to finish with this one. and I think I will play the next edition next year, hopefully. And also I will keep playing some Crazy House every once in a while on Lichess. Maybe now I will play less because it's just for fun. But thanks for helping me and chatting with me a bit before the matches. You helped me a bit.
Yeah, my pleasure. And so have a great night, Erev Tov, and sure we'll meet each other again frequently and on Lead Chess, or if you have to take a break from chess, sometimes life priorities are more important. But be in touch, and appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, David. Thanks a lot, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, yeah, take care.
לילה טוב, תודה, שבת שלום.